The first time the Galactic Council heard a human say this will be fun, 3 solar systems went dark. It wasn't immediate, mind you. The chain of events started with a simple exploration mission, where Captain Alex Chen of the Earth Space Force stood on the bridge of the Stellar Pioneer, staring at a swirling anomaly that definitely shouldn't have been there. "That's weird," Lieutenant Rodriguez said, her fingers dancing across the holographic display. "The readings are off the charts. Whatever that thing is, it's bending space-time like a pretzel." Alex leaned forward, a familiar glint in their eyes that made the ship's AI run a quick diagnostic of all emergency systems. The captain's vital signs showed elevated excitement levels, and their lips were curving into that distinctive human expression that the AI had learned to associate with imminent chaos. "You know what?" Alex said, drumming their fingers on the captain's chair. "This will be fun." The words echoed through the bridge, and for a split second, everything seemed to freeze. The alien crew members, a Zorblaxian with crystalline skin, a Neptunian whose tentacles operated 6 different control panels simultaneously, and a Venusian empath, all stopped what they were doing. Their species had been part of the Galactic Federation long enough to recognize those 4 words as humanity's unofficial battle cry. Araya immediately sent out a priority alert to the nearest Galactic Council outpost. The message was simple: Human Fun Protocol activated. Prepare for unexpected variables. The anomaly, as it turned out, was a tear in the fabric of reality, a cosmic hiccup that shouldn't have been poked. But humans, as the galaxy had learned, had a peculiar definition of shouldn't. To them, it was less a warning and more of a challenge. A dare wrapped in a temptation, served with a side of "hold my coffee." "Captain," the Zorblaxian science officer, Crystal, said carefully, "the Council's standard procedure for spatial anomalies clearly states that we should document it from a safe distance and wait for a specialized research team." Alex finished, still grinning. "But look at those energy patterns. They're almost like they're dancing. Don't tell me you're not curious about what's on the other side." The Venusian empath, Officer Starlight, picked up waves of pure enthusiasm radiating from the captain. It was the same energy they'd felt right before Alex had decided to hitchhike on a comet to save fuel, or when they'd suggested using a black hole's gravitational pull as a slingshot to escape from space pirates. Both plans had worked, technically speaking, though the paperwork afterward had been legendary. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from her station, her dark eyes sparkling with the same dangerous curiosity as her captain's. This was another thing the galaxy had learned about humans. They were contagious. Their enthusiasm, their reckless optimism, their ability to look at certain death and say "challenge accepted," it spread to other species like a benign virus. "The anomaly's energy signature is stable," Rodriguez reported, though everyone noticed she didn't say for how long. "And I've been running some calculations. If we modify our shield frequency to match its oscillation pattern, we could potentially create a safe passage through it." Crystal finished, their crystalline structure flickering with mixed frequencies of excitement and apprehension. The science officer paused, realizing they'd just contributed to what the Council would definitely classify as human-inspired recklessness. The Neptunian navigator, whose name sounded like waves crashing on a distant shore, manipulated multiple holographic controls with their tentacles. "I've plotted 17 possible approach vectors," they announced, then added with a hint of pride, "including 3 that probably won't tear us apart at the atomic level." ARIA, monitoring the situation, updated their alert to the Council. Human Fun Protocol. Level 2. Crew now exhibiting signs of human-typical problem-solving approaches. Request: immediate intervention. But the Council's response would take at least 20 minutes to reach them, and Alex was already leaning forward in their chair, that familiar gleam in their eyes growing brighter. 3 safe approaches. Those are better odds than we had during the Martian dust storm incident of '89. The mention of that particular adventure made everyone on the bridge wince. It had become a case study in the Council's manual on why human optimism requires galaxy-wide safety protocols. Yet, somehow, it had also become a story of legendary success, defying all logical explanation, which, the Council had noted, was humanity's specialty. "All right, team," Alex said, standing up and straightening their uniform. "Let's do this by the book. Mostly. Crystal, keep those sensors at maximum sensitivity. Rodriguez, I want shields at 120%. Don't tell me it's impossible. We both know you've got some tricks up your sleeve. Starlight, monitor the crew's emotional states. If anyone's anxiety spikes beyond yellow levels, we pull back. Navigator, plot us a course using your least atomic shredding approach vector." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements a symphony of coordination that would have made any Council observer both impressed and terrified. This was humanity's true power, not just their boundless optimism or their ability to turn certain doom into exciting challenge, but their talent for making others believe it too. As the Stellar Pioneer moved closer to the anomaly, its shields humming with Rodriguez's impossible modifications, ARIS sent one final update to the Council. Human Fun Protocol. Level 3. Situation has evolved beyond standard containment parameters. Multiple species now affected by human enthusiasm. Please advise. The anomaly loomed before them, a swirling vortex of possibilities that seemed to bend both space and probability. The entire bridge crew held their breath as the ship's nose edged closer to the phenomenon. Alex stood at the center of it all, their expression a perfect blend of scientific curiosity and adventure-seeking joy that had become humanity's trademark across the stars. "You know what the best part is," Alex said, their voice filled with genuine wonder. "We have no idea what we're about to discover. And isn't that just?" The entire crew tensed, knowing what was coming next. Araya began preemptively activating additional emergency protocols. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the Galactic Council's Human Monitoring Division was probably already preparing their incident report templates. Fun. The word had barely left Alex's lips when the anomaly pulsed, sending out a wave of energy that made the ship's advanced sensors scream in protest. But instead of backing away, the Stellar Pioneer pushed forward, its human captain and increasingly human-influenced crew ready to write another chapter in the galaxy's ever-growing manual of things that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did because humans were involved. And, as the ship crossed the threshold into the unknown, ARIA could have sworn they detected something impossible in their own circuits, a small spark of what humans called excitement. Perhaps that was the true emergency protocol the galaxy needed to worry about, not just humans saying this will be fun, but the fact that, somehow, they were usually right. The moment the Stellar Pioneer crossed the threshold, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Colors that shouldn't exist painted themselves across the view screen, and for a brief moment, everyone on the bridge experienced the peculiar sensation of being everywhere and nowhere at once. Even ARIA's processors struggled to make sense of the data flooding their circuits. "Status report," Alex called out, their voice steady despite the fact that their atoms had just done what could only be described as a cosmic cha-cha. "All systems are." Rodriguez paused, squinting at her readings. "Well, there's something. According to these instruments, we're simultaneously moving forward and backward, and possibly sideways through time." Crystal's crystalline form refracted impossible light patterns as they analyzed the sensor data. "Captain, I'm detecting memories." "No, that's not quite right. They're like echoes of things that haven't happened yet, but also happened a million years ago." The Neptunian navigator's tentacles moved in patterns that seemed to mirror the swirling chaos outside the ship. "Our position is interesting. We appear to be exactly where we were, except also about 20 light-years to the left. If left still means anything here." Officer Starlight's empathic abilities were picking up emotions that didn't seem to originate from any of the crew members, or from any particular point in time. "I'm sensing excitement, fear, joy, and confusion from ourselves, but from versions of us that chose different paths at every decision point in our lives. Alex absorbed all this information with the kind of calm that made the Galactic Council create an entire subsection in their manual titled Concerning Human Responses to Reality-Bending Scenarios. They actually looked delighted, which prompted ARIA to create a new emergency protocol on the spot. "So," Alex said, standing up to get a better view of the kaleidoscopic chaos outside, "we've basically stumbled into a place where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Anyone else thinking what I'm thinking?" "Please don't say it's fun," Crystal muttered, their crystalline structure vibrating with anxiety. "Oh, it's way beyond fun," Alex grinned. "This is fascinating." Somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Council, a new alert level spontaneously created itself just to accommodate this situation. As the crew worked to make sense of their surroundings, they began to notice something else: subtle patterns in the chaos. The swirling colors weren't random. They were more like words in a language that wrote itself in probability curves and quantum fluctuations. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement, "I think I'm starting to see some sort of structure in these readings. It's like the universe is trying to have a conversation with itself, and we're sitting in the middle of it." ARIA, whose processors were now operating in several temporal directions at once, began correlating data from what appeared to be multiple timeline variants of the ship. "Captain, I'm detecting traces of our own ship's quantum signature scattered across what I can only describe as the probability spectrum. It seems we've been here before, or we will be here, or we're always here." The Neptunian navigator's tentacles suddenly froze mid-motion. "That's not possible. According to these calculations, we're picking up traces of ships that look exactly like the Stellar Pioneer, but each one made slightly different choices to get here. There's one that turned left instead of right at that nebula 3 months ago, another that chose to explore a different star system entirely. And they all ended up here." Alex finished, their eyes shining with the kind of curiosity that had once led humans to look at the ocean and think, "I bet there's some interesting stuff on the other side." But why? What's drawing all these versions of us to this specific point in spacetime? Crystal's surface caught fragments of light that seemed to come from other dimensions. "Captain, I'm analyzing the quantum signatures of these alternate pioneers. Each one shows slight variations in their timeline, but there's one constant. In every single version, you said, 'This will be fun,' right before entering the anomaly." Officer Starlight suddenly straightened, their ethereal form shimming with intensity. "I'm picking up something else now. These emotions I'm sensing, they're not just echoes or alternatives. They're more like breadcrumbs, as if something or someone is trying to lead us somewhere." Alex leaned forward in their chair, that dangerous glint in their eyes growing brighter. "A path made of quantum possibilities, marked by different versions of ourselves. Now that sounds like an invitation if I ever heard one." "Captain," Araya interjected, their voice modulating through several temporal variations at once, "I feel compelled to point out that following a mysterious path through quantum reality based on alternate timeline breadcrumbs falls under at least 15 different Council warning protocols." "Only 15. Alex's grin widened. "We must be losing our touch. Rodriguez, can you track these quantum signatures? Plot us a course that follows the strongest concentration of our temporal echoes." Rodriguez's fingers flew across her console, leaving trailing afterimages in the probability-saturated air. "Already on it, Captain. Though I should mention that plotting a course through quantum possibility space wasn't covered in my academy training. That's because they can't teach what hasn't been invented yet." Alex replied with the kind of logic that made perfect sense to humans and gave other species headaches. "And look at us. We're about to invent it." The Stellar Pioneer began to move through the quantum possibility space, following the trail of its own alternate versions like a cosmic connect-the-dots puzzle. As they traveled deeper into this reality-bending realm, the crew began to notice something else. Each version of their ship they encountered seemed to be moving with purpose, as if they were all being drawn toward something. "Captain," Crystal said, their voice carrying harmonics from several quantum frequencies at once, "I'm detecting a point of convergence ahead. It appears that every version of the stellar pioneer we've encountered is heading toward the same coordinates. Relatively speaking, since traditional spatial coordinates are more of a polite suggestion here." The view screen showed what looked like a vast web of luminous threads, each one representing a different possible path the ship had taken. And at the center of this web, where all the threads seemed to meet, there was something that made even ARIA's quantum-enhanced processors pause in confusion. "That's..." Rodriguez trailed off, her instruments struggling to make sense of what they were seeing. "I don't think we have words for that, Captain." At the convergence point, reality itself seemed to be folding inward, creating what looked like a pocket of pure possibility. A place where the rules of the universe went to take a coffee break. And floating in the center of this impossibility was what appeared to be a door. Not a metaphorical door, or a spatial anomaly that kind of looked like a door, but an actual physical door, complete with an old-fashioned brass doorknob. "Now that," Alex said, their voice filled with the kind of wonder that had once made humans look at mountains and think, "I bet the view from up there is amazing," is definitely going to be fun. ARI, calculating the probability of what they were about to do, began composing what they suspected would be a very interesting report for the Galactic Council. The title already wrote itself: Regarding Human Encounters with Interdimensional Architecture, a case study in why fun should be a controlled substance. The stellar pioneer hung in the quantum void, its sensors trying to make sense of a door that by all laws of physics shouldn't exist. The brass doorknob gleamed invitingly, catching light from dimensions that hadn't existed until the crew started looking at them. "Let me get this straight," Crystal said, their crystalline form refracting impossible colors. "We followed ourselves through quantum space, found a door floating in a reality bubble, and now we're actually considering opening it." "Well, when you put it that way," Alex replied, already standing up from the captain's chair, "it sounds like just another Tuesday." Rodriguez's fingers danced across her console, running every scan she could think of, and probably inventing a few new ones along the way. "The door appears to be made of wood, just regular oak. In the middle of quantum space. The doorknob is brass, probably antique, and if these readings are right, it's exactly the same temperature as the average human hand. That's not suspicious at all," the Neptunian navigator commented, their tentacles twitching with nervous energy. "Definitely not like every trap and every space horror story ever told." Officer Starlight floated closer to their monitoring station, their ethereal form rippling with conflicting emotions. "I'm sensing anticipation, not just from us, but from every version of us across all these quantum threads. It's like we're all holding our breath at once, creating some sort of emotional singularity." ARI's processors were running so hot trying to calculate the probabilities of various outcomes that they had started solving mathematical problems that wouldn't be discovered for another 3 centuries. "Captain, I feel compelled to inform you that the Galactic Council has no protocols for this situation. We have officially exceeded their capacity to predict human-induced chaos." "Now that," Alex said with a grin that made several nearby quantum possibilities spontaneously reorganize themselves, "is what I call an achievement. Prep the landing party." The next 20 minutes were filled with the kind of organized chaos that humans excelled at. Rodriguez modified their environmental suits to work in quantum space. Crystal analyzed the door's molecular structure from 17 different dimensional angles, and the Neptunian navigator calculated approach vectors that wouldn't accidentally create a new universe. As the landing party assembled in the teleportation bay, Alex, Rodriguez, and Crystal volunteering, while Officer Starlight monitored their emotional states from the bridge. Araya ran through every worst-case scenario they could compute. The list was still generating new entries when Alex gave the order to beam them near the door. The quantum space around the door felt different. Reality seemed to hold its breath, like the moment before opening a present, or the split second before saying something that would change everything. Their environmental suits displays showed readings that made Rodriguez question everything she'd learned at the academy. The quantum fluctuations are forming patterns, Crystal reported, their scientific curiosity temporarily overriding their anxiety. It's almost like reality is trying to make sense of itself around this point. Alex moved closer to the door, their suit's sensors adding to the stream of data flowing back to the ship. The brass doorknob seemed to shine a bit brighter as they approached, as if responding to their presence, or perhaps to their intent. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, her voice tense with discovery. "I'm picking up something else. The quantum signatures we followed here. They're not just different versions of us. They're iterating. Like each version of the stellar pioneer that made it here learned something that the next version needed to know. A quantum learning algorithm," Crystal whispered, their crystalline structure vibrating with realization. "We're not just following ourselves. We're building on our own experiences across multiple timelines." Alex stood before the door now, their hand hovering near the doorknob. "Are you getting all this?" "Affirmative, Captain," the AI responded through their suit comms. "Though I feel compelled to mention that my predictive algorithms are now generating scenarios that include the phrases fundamental nature of reality and cosmic significance of human curiosity with alarming frequency." The doorknob seemed to glimmer with its own inner light now, as if responding to their presence, or perhaps their purpose. Alex's hand moved closer, and the quantum space around them seemed to hum with potential energy. "Captain," Officer Starlight's voice came through the comms, tight with intensity. "The emotional resonance is reaching critical levels. Whatever's behind that door, it's important. Not just to us, but to every version of us that made it this far. The other quantum signatures are aligning," Rodriguez reported, her voice filled with wonder. "It's like every version of us is reaching for that doorknob at the same time." Alex's hand was almost touching the brass now. The metal seemed to shimmer with possibilities, each one containing a different answer to the question they hadn't even known they were asking. The question that had drawn every version of them across quantum space to this impossible door. "You know what the really interesting part is," Alex said, their voice carrying that unique mix of human wonder and determination that had made the galaxy create so many emergency protocols. "Every version of us that made it here, every single one of them must have said, 'This will be fun at some point.' And you know what?" The quantum space held its breath. Araya's processors braced for impact. Officer Starlight felt the emotional tension spike across multiple dimensions. The door seemed to glow with its own inner light, casting shadows that shouldn't exist in quantum space. Alex's fingers brushed against the brass doorknob, and reality itself seemed to lean in closer to hear what they would say next. The captain's next words would either unlock the greatest discovery in human history or prove why the galaxy was right to create all those protocols. And in that moment, suspended between infinite possibilities and one singular choice, Alex Chen did what humans had always done best. They grinned in the face of the unknown and prepared to make history. Just as Alex's fingers closed around the doorknob, a ripple of energy pulsed through quantum space. The door shimmered, and suddenly they weren't looking at just one door anymore. They were seeing hundreds, thousands, perhaps infinite versions of the same door, each one slightly different, each one leading to a different possibility. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice cracked with urgency, "something's happening to the quantum signatures. They're multiplying. It's like every possible outcome is trying to happen at once." Through their crystalline structure, Crystal perceived wavelengths of reality that human eyes couldn't process. The timelines aren't just branching anymore. They're converging. All of them. Every single version of us that made it here. We're creating some sort of temporal feedback loop. Back on the stellar pioneer, Araya's quantum-enhanced processors were registering phenomena that defied classification. Captain, I'm detecting a cascade effect across all known dimensions. The act of observing these multiple possibilities appears to be forcing them all into simultaneous existence. In simpler terms, the Neptunian navigator added, their tentacles moving in complex patterns that matched the swirling chaos around them. We might have just broken reality. Again. But Alex wasn't listening to the warnings. Their attention was fixed on something else, a subtle detail that none of their instruments had picked up. Each version of the door had the same brass knocker, and engraved on each one was a phrase that seemed to shift and change every time they tried to read it. Rodriguez, Alex called out, their voice tight with controlled excitement. Are you seeing this? The writing on the knockers. It's not in any language I recognize, but somehow I can read it. Rodriguez finished, her voice filled with wonder. It's like it's writing itself in whatever language the observer speaks. And it's asking us a question. Officer Starlight's voice came through the comms, trembling with the weight of emotions flooding through quantum space. Captain, the emotional resonance is changing. It's not just anticipation anymore. It's recognition. As if every version of us just realized something at the same time. The writing on the knockers shifted again, and this time everyone could read it clearly. Why do humans say this will be fun when facing the unknown? The question hung in quantum space like a challenge, or perhaps an invitation. And that's when they noticed something else. The infinite doors weren't just showing different possibilities. They were showing different moments in human history when those words had changed everything. Through one door, they glimpsed the first human who looked at the ocean and thought crossing it would be fun. Through another, they saw the Wright brothers declaring their first flight attempt would be fun. Door after door showed moments when humans had faced the impossible and, instead of turning back, had grinned and called it fun. It's a test, Crystal whispered, their crystalline form resonating with sudden understanding. Or maybe it's a demonstration. Alex's hand was still on the doorknob, but now they could feel something else, a vibration that seemed to pulse in time with their own heartbeat. RIO. What's happening to the quantum signatures now? They're synchronizing, Captain. The AI responded, their voice modulating through multiple probability frequencies. Every version of us, across every timeline where we made it this far, is experiencing this moment simultaneously. The probability matrix is becoming unstable. Unstable is an understatement, Rodriguez reported, her instruments showing readings that made advanced quantum physics look like simple addition. The entire quantum membrane is starting to fold in on itself. It's like reality is trying to compress all these possibilities into a single point. Officer Starlight's next words sent a chill through the quantum void. Captain, I'm sensing something else now. Something vast, ancient, like we've accidentally caught the attention of something that's been watching humanity all along. The doors began to pulse with a light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Each one showed a different moment in human history, a different instance of those 4 words changing the course of events. And in each scene, barely visible but unmistakably present, was a shadow, a presence, an observer. Well, Alex said, their voice steady despite the reality-bending chaos around them. I think we just found out why the galaxy gets nervous when humans say this will be fun. We're not just tempting fate, we're answering a call. The quantum space around them began to crystallize, possibilities solidifying into certainties. The infinite doors started to merge, flowing together like streams joining a river, all converging on the single door where Alex's hand still rested on the knob. Captain, Aria's voice carried an unusual note of awe. I believe we are about to exceed every known parameter for human-induced improbability. Whatever is behind that door, it's been waiting for us. For all of us. For every human who ever looked at the impossible and smiled. The brass doorknob grew warm under Alex's hand, pulsing with an energy that felt ancient and new at the same time. The writing on the knocker shifted one last time, forming words that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Are you ready to learn why? Reality held its breath. The quantum void hummed with potential energy. Every version of the stellar pioneer, across every timeline where they'd made it this far, hung suspended in this single moment of choice. And Captain Alex Chen, representative of a species that had turned "this will be fun" into a force capable of bending reality itself, did what humans had always done best. They embraced the impossible and prepared to make history smile. Alex turned the doorknob, and the universe held its breath. The door swung open with a soft click that somehow echoed across every quantum possibility at once. Light poured out, not the harsh glare of a star or the cold illumination of space, but a warm, familiar glow that reminded every member of the crew of home, wherever and whatever that meant to them. "Oh," Alex whispered, their voice filled with wonder. "That's not what I expected." Beyond the door wasn't a mysterious alien artifact or a world-ending threat. Instead, they saw a simple room that seemed to exist in every possibility at once. Its walls were lined with what looked like windows, but each one showed a different moment in human history. Moments when someone had looked at the impossible and said those four fateful words. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, her instruments going haywire. "These readings, they're off the charts, but also somehow perfectly normal. It's like we're everywhere and nowhere all at once." As they stepped through the doorway, the room shifted and expanded, accommodating the landing party as if it had been waiting for them all along. Crystal's crystalline form reflected countless versions of human achievement, each window showing a different milestone in exploration and discovery. "It's a nexus," Crystal breathed, their scientific curiosity overwhelming their usual caution. "A point where all these moments of human innovation connect." A figure emerged from the center of the room, or perhaps it had been there all along, waiting to be noticed. It wasn't alien, exactly, but it wasn't quite human either. It looked like a collection of all possible forms life could take, shifting and changing as they watched. "Welcome," it said, its voice somehow speaking in all languages at once, while remaining perfectly understandable. "We've been watching humanity for quite some time now. You're a fascinating species, the only one we've found that consistently turns terror into curiosity and impossible odds into entertainment." Officer Starlight's voice came through the comms, trembling with emotion. "Captain, the emotional signature I'm reading from this entity, it's pure joy. Like a parent watching a child take their first steps." "You see," the figure continued, gesturing to the windows around them, "most species we've encountered treat the unknown as something to fear. They build protocols, establish safety measures, create emergency procedures, and they're not wrong to do so. The universe is a dangerous place." The figure waved its hand, and one of the windows expanded, showing the first human who looked at fire and decided to try controlling it. "But humans are different. Where others see danger, you see possibility. Where others retreat, you step forward. And most remarkably, you do it with a smile and those four words that have become your species' unofficial battle cry." AI's voice crackled through the comms, their processors struggling to make sense of what they were witnessing. "Captain, I'm detecting a pattern in these historical moments. Each one represents a quantum branch point, a moment when human civilization could have gone in two very different directions." "Exactly," the figure nodded, seeming pleased. "And in an overwhelming number of timelines, humanity chose to move forward, to explore, to try the impossible. Not because you had to, but because you thought it would be fun." Alex stepped forward, their mind racing with implications. "So all those protocols the Galactic Council created, they weren't just about preventing disasters." The figure's form shifted, briefly taking on an appearance that reminded Alex of every teacher who had ever encouraged their curiosity. "The Council's protocols weren't meant to stop you. They were meant to prepare the rest of the galaxy for you. Because whenever humans declare something will be fun, the universe tends to reorganize itself to accommodate your particular brand of optimism." Rodriguez's console beeped with new data. "Captain, You need to see this. According to these readings, every time humans have said, "This will be fun," before doing something impossible, we've actually been teaching the universe to be more flexible with its own rules. The figure nodded again, its form now resembling something like a proud mentor. Humanity isn't just exploring the universe, you're helping it evolve. Your ability to face the unknown with joy instead of fear is changing the very fabric of reality. That's why we created this space, this nexus of possibility. We needed to understand how you do it. So this whole thing, Alex gestured at the quantum space around them, was a test. Not exactly. The figure smiled, its form settling into something that somehow looked like everyone's favorite grandparent. It was more of a graduation ceremony. Humanity has proven itself ready for the next step. You see, the universe isn't just a place, it's a conversation. And humans have been unknowingly participating in that conversation every time you've looked at something impossible and decided it would be fun. The figure waved its hand one last time, and a new door appeared. This one made of pure possibility, its surface rippling with potential. So now we'd like to invite humanity to join the conversation properly, to help us teach other species how to embrace the unknown, to show them that sometimes the most scientific response to a mystery is to smile and say, "This will be fun." Alex finished, already reaching for the new door's handle. But just as their fingers touched the surface, every window in the room flickered simultaneously. The figure's form wavered, its expression changing to one of surprise. "Well," it said, its voice carrying a note of what could only be described as cosmic amusement, "it seems your species has managed to surprise even us. Again." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, their hand still on the door. "We thought we were inviting humanity to join a conversation," the figure explained, its form now shifting through expressions of wonder and delight. "But according to these quantum readings, you've already started an entirely new one. Something unprecedented. Something fun," Alex suggested, grinning. The figure's laughter echoed through every possibility in existence. "The galaxy's protocols never stood a chance, did they?" And as Alex turned the handle on the door made of pure possibility, HFY sent one final update to the Galactic Council. Human Fun Protocol Status. Universe has officially given up on containing human enthusiasm. Recommend updating all protocols to just enjoy the ride. The return journey to normal space felt different somehow. The Stellar Pioneer's quantum wake left ripples of possibility behind it, like footprints in the cosmic sand. The crew sat in contemplative silence on the bridge, each processing what they'd discovered in their own way. Even HFY's processors seemed to hum with a new kind of awareness. Alex sat in the captain's chair, turning a small object over in their hands, a brass doorknob that the entity had given them as a parting gift. A reminder, it had said, that every door you open changes the universe a little bit. The metal was warm to the touch, and sometimes, if you looked at it just right, you could see echoes of other possibilities swimming beneath its surface. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, breaking the thoughtful silence. "You might want to see this. The quantum residue from our journey. It's doing something interesting." The main view screen showed their wake through space-time, but instead of dissipating as expected, it was creating something new. Like ripples in a pond joining together to form patterns, the quantum possibilities they'd encountered were weaving themselves into a tapestry of potential. "It's beautiful," Crystal said, their crystalline form reflecting the dancing lights. "Each thread represents a different choice, a different moment when someone looked at the impossible and smiled. And they're all connecting, creating something new." The Neptunian navigator's tentacles moved in harmony with the patterns. "According to these readings, we're not just leaving a trail. We're creating new quantum pathways. Like we're teaching the universe how to be more flexible." Officer Starlight floated near their station, their ethereal form pulsing with waves of emotion. "The emotional resonance is extraordinary. Every species we pass, every star system we encounter, They're all picking up echoes of what we experienced. It's like the universe itself is learning to embrace possibility. ARI's voice carried a new note of understanding. Captain, I've been analyzing the Galactic Council's protocols since our return. They're not just rules or guidelines. They're stories. Each one documents a moment when humanity did something that should have been impossible, but turned out to be fun. Alex smiled, remembering the windows they'd seen in that impossible room. So every time the Council created a new protocol, they were actually preserving the lesson. Rodriguez finished, her eyes bright with realization. A lesson about how to face the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. The brass doorknob in Alex's hand grew warm, and for a moment they could see reflections of other starships, other crews, other moments when someone had looked at the vastness of space and thought, "This looks interesting," instead of "This looks dangerous." "You know what the really amazing part is," Crystal said, their scientific curiosity bubbling through their usual reserve. "We've been doing this all along. Every human who ever tried something new, every time someone looked at a challenge and called it fun, we were all participating in this cosmic conversation without even knowing it." The Neptunian navigator's displays showed a cascade of new data. The quantum pathways we're creating, they're stable, permanent, like we're adding new possibilities to the fundamental structure of reality. "Not just adding," Officer Starlight corrected, their empathic abilities picking up something deeper. "We're inspiring. Other species are starting to follow these pathways. They're learning to see possibility where they once saw only danger." Alex stood up, walking to the view screen where the quantum wake continued to weave its intricate patterns. "Ariel, what's the status of our transmission to the Galactic Council?" "Still processing, Captain," the AI responded, a hint of amusement in their digital voice. Apparently, trying to explain how humanity accidentally taught the universe to have fun has crashed several of their primary protocol databases. They're having to create an entirely new classification system. Rodriguez laughed, her fingers dancing across her console as she logged their findings. "I can see the header now. Human Fun Protocols. A Guide to Universal Evolution through Recreational Quantum Engineering." The brass doorknob pulsed warmly in Alex's hand, and they could have sworn they heard a distant echo of the entity's laughter. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. "You know what this means, don't you?" Alex said, turning to face their crew. "Every impossible thing we've ever attempted, every time we've looked at something dangerous and called it fun, we weren't just being reckless. We were teaching the universe how to dream." Crystal's form shimmered with understanding. "That's why the entity showed us all those moments in human history. Each one was a point where we could have chosen fear, but we chose curiosity instead." "And now," the Neptunian navigator added, their tentacles gesturing at the growing network of quantum pathways, "we're building bridges for others to follow, showing them that it's okay to face the unknown with a smile." Officer Starlight's form brightened suddenly. "Captain, I'm picking up something new. The emotional resonance we're creating, it's being answered. Other species, other civilizations, they're starting to understand, to feel what we feel when we say those words." ARI's processors hummed with activity. "Confirmed. I'm detecting quantum ripples from across the galaxy. It appears that our little adventure has started a chain reaction. The universe isn't just learning from us anymore. It's starting to play along." Alex looked down at the brass doorknob one last time before carefully placing it on a small pedestal next to their chair. It would serve as a reminder that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't made by following protocols, but by following joy. "Set a course for home," they ordered, settling back into the captain's chair. "And let's take the scenic route. I have a feeling there are a lot more impossible things out there just waiting to be called fun." As the stellar pioneer turned toward Earth, their quantum wake continued to spread through space and time, weaving new possibilities into the fabric of reality. And somewhere, in a room that existed in all possibilities at once, an entity that had watched humanity for eons smiled as it added a new chapter to the universe's story. The final entry in the ship's log, transmitted to the Galactic Council along with their full report, read simply, "Regarding Human Protocol Update 2525B, the universe has officially acknowledged that when humans say this will be fun, they're not being reckless. They're being revolutionary. Recommend updating all future protocols to include a healthy dose of human-style optimism. After all, that's what makes the impossible possible." And, as stars streaked past their view screen, leaving trails of quantum possibility in their wake, the crew of the Stellar Pioneer realized they had discovered something far more important than new scientific principles or cosmic entities. They had discovered that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't gravity or dark energy, or even quantum mechanics. It was the simple, profound human ability to look at something impossible and say, with a smile that could bend reality itself, "This will be fun." ARIA's final update to the Galactic Council that day contained just one line. "Human Fun Protocol Status. Mission accomplished. Universe is now officially having fun. Recommend all species join in. Humans insist it's more enjoyable that way."